Hello there, Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 7 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here again to bring you another tip on how to help you create the life you want. Today I want to look at the subject of conflict resolution, how we can resolve those conflicts with the people that we find ourselves in conflict with. And the quote that I'm sending out to those 5,000 plus folks on my quote list is one of mine. It says, "While understanding is necessary, it doesn't necessarily mean agreement." While understanding is necessary, it doesn't necessarily mean agreement. And what I mean by that is that in order to resolve conflict, you first really have to reach a certain amount of understanding. Now, when people hear that, they go, well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's the famous Stephen Covey line, seek first to understand and then be understood. People say, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And yet, have you noticed that when we're in conflict with someone, when we're in a heated discussion, have you noticed understanding isn't our highest purpose sometimes? We want to be heard. We want to be understood. And we have a tendency to try to push that. And that's because, for those of you who follow my Life from the Top of the Mind philosophy, we're coming from this fight or flight part of the brain. We're coming from this part of the brain where understanding almost feels too passive. It almost feels like giving in. And again, a lot of people misunderstand understanding in terms of whether it means agreement. Some people say, well, I can't say I understand because I don't agree. And they would think I agree, and here we go, blah, 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 blah. So I think we need to understand first is, how does understanding either serve or not serve us if conflict resolution, if we really want to resolve the conflict, is our highest purpose, is what we're really going for, versus winning. You know, I think this whole problem of winning creates a loser. It colors the next time we're in a conflict or in an argument or even in a discussion with that person. You don't want someone walking away from you feeling like they've lost. There's resentment, there's resistance. They become the ambassador of doom, where they go and tell everyone in your family or your organization what a horrible person you are. It's just, I think when somebody loses, everybody loses. So again, let's go for that win-win concept of understanding. And I'm going to suggest that understanding not only paves the way for some sort of resolution, it actually helps us become more influential in the conversation. Because when we can truly understand where someone's coming from, and when we voice that understanding, okay, I can see how you'd see it that way. I can see how that would be important to you. Then all of a sudden now they're more open to what we have to say next, because they don't think they're having to defend the righteousness of their perspective. We don't want them defending the righteousness of their perspective. We want them open to hearing another perspective, combining what's important to them with what's important to us so that we come to some sort of resolution. In order to do that, we need 2 things. Number 1, we need to know what is blocking their ability to hear our perspective. We kind of believe that what we have to say is valuable, and yet they're not hearing it that way. So there's something in the way of that. We need to understand what that is. We don't have to agree with it, but we've got to understand what it is. Once we can understand what is blocking their ability to hear what we have to say, we can go, oh, okay, well that makes sense. I can see how you'd see it that way. I have some other thoughts about that as well. Would you be willing to hear mine? See, when we've heard and understood theirs, it really puts them in a position to hear and understand ours. They're not going to say no at that point. Now, are they going to be jumping up and down going, yippee, yippee, everything's wonderful? Maybe not. They still may be a little bit concerned, a little bit suspicious. But now we understand what is important to them. We've always known what is important to us. Guess who's going to be in the best position to blend these two to what Stephen Covey calls the third alternative? And that's the solution that has what's important to us as well as what's important to them. And I think when we're in this conflict, when we're in this argument, when we're in this kind of fight or flight response, we can't see that third alternative. We just get into that win-lose perspective. We create losers either in ourselves or others. So what I'm going to encourage you to do the next time you're in a heated conversation, the next time you find yourself wanting to resolve an argument versus feed it, I'm going to encourage you to recognize the value of understanding that person's perspective. Work to understand that person's perspective and then verbalize that understanding. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I can see how you'd see it that way. And, not but. Sometimes we go, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but That won't work. That's just like going up to a member of your family saying, you know, I really love you, but kind of negates anything that comes before it. But if we can say, you know, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, and, you know, I've got some thoughts about that as well. Would you be willing to hear my perspective? Now, they're coming from the upper 80% of the brain because you've just asked them what's called a neocortex question. A question that's about the future and their willingness to understand once you have demonstrated your understanding for them. Then you come to some sort of agreement that has something in it for both people. Make sense? I hope you're finding these videos valuable. If you do, please hit the like button. You know how many folks pay attention to how many folks like it. Share it with your friends if you think it's valuable. If you want me to come and do a presentation to your organization about how to resolve conflict from the upper 80% of the brain, what I call the top of the mind, go to my website, BillCrawfordPh.com, hit the contact button, let me know. And by the way, if you're interested in more information about this whole life from the top of the mind philosophy, the website is designed to give you all kinds of information about that. There's a short video right on the index, the splash page. There's a place where you can put your name and email address, and I'll send you a PDF that explains all about how the brain processes information and how we can be more influential in that process. In the meantime, here's to you bringing more clarity, confidence, creativity to everything you do, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.